I didn't come here as a cop. I came as a father.
The badge hit the table with a metallic clang that silenced every conversation in Romano's. Detective James Kellerman stood across from Vincent Romano, hands shaking, badge between them like a challenge. Not an arrest, a surrender. Vincent's men reached for their weapons. Vincent raised one hand, everyone froze. The detective's voice cracked when he spoke. "My daughter, Maya, she's 10. 3 men took her from school 2 hours ago. Black van, no plates. The department won't help because they know it's connected to you." He pushed the badge closer. "I'm not here as a cop, I'm here as a father, and I'm begging." Vincent stared at this man who'd spent 5 years trying to put him in prison, who'd raided his businesses, arrested his men, made Vincent's life difficult in 100 small ways, now standing in his restaurant, weaponless, desperate, offering his career, his honor, his everything, for a little girl who loved to draw horses. Vincent knew about Maya, knew she got straight A's, knew her mother had died of cancer 3 years ago, knew she was all James had left, because Vincent knew everything about the man trying to destroy him, including that James Kellerman was a good cop, honest, incorruptible, which made this moment even stranger. Vincent picked up the badge, turned it over in his hands. Shield number 2847, 20 years of service. A life's work reduced to a brass token on a restaurant table. "Sit down," Vincent said. James hesitated. "I said sit." The detective sat. Vincent's men watched, confused, uncertain. Their boss didn't negotiate with cops, didn't help them, certainly didn't sit across from them like equals, but Vincent had rules, codes. One of them was simple: you don't harm children, ever. Didn't matter who they belonged to. Didn't matter if their father was the cop who'd arrested 6 of Vincent's best men last year. Children were off limits. "Tell me everything," Vincent said. "Start from when she was taken." James's voice was steadier now, still scared but focused. "School dismissal, 3 p.m. She always waits by the oak tree near the parking lot. I'm usually there at 3:15. Today I was stuck in traffic. Got there at 3:20. His hands clenched. Her backpack was on the ground, one of her shoes. Teachers said a black van pulled up, 3 men, masks. They grabbed her, she screamed, fought. One man carried her into the van while the other 2 kept people back, gone in 45 seconds. Witnesses, 6 teachers, dozen parents, everyone's description matches. Black van, no plates, heading east. You called it in. Immediately, but Detective Franks took the case. You know him? Vincent knew Franks, dirty cop on the payroll of the Castellano family, Vincent's rivals. Franks said it was probably a custody dispute, said my ex-wife's family might have taken her. Refused to issue an Amber Alert, told me to wait, let him investigate. James's jaw tightened. My ex-wife died 3 years ago. Her family lives in California. Franks knows that. He's blocking the investigation on purpose. The pieces clicked together in Vincent's mind. The Castellanos had been pushing into his territory for months. Small provocations, testing boundaries, taking a cop's daughter, forcing the cop to either stay quiet or come crawling to Vincent. That was their style. Either way, they won. If James stayed quiet, they'd probably kill Maya anyway. Send a message. If James came to Vincent, it damaged the detective's reputation, made him dirty by association, compromised his ability to investigate any criminal organization. Smart, cruel, exactly the kind of move Anthony Castellano would make. What makes you think I can help? Vincent asked. James met his eyes. Because I know who took her. I can't prove it, can't get a warrant, can't get my department to help, but I know. Tell me. 3 weeks ago, I arrested Vincent Castellano's nephew, drug trafficking. The kid was guilty. He's looking at 5 years minimum. Anthony swore he'd make me pay. Said he'd take what I loved most. Vincent's expression didn't change, but inside, cold fury settled in his chest. Anthony Castellano had broken the most important rule, the one rule every organization in the city followed. No children, no matter what. You have proof Anthony's involved. No, just the threat, the timing, and the fact that my own department is blocking the investigation. James leaned forward. I know what I'm asking. I know you and Anthony are rivals. I know helping me might start a war, but she's 10 years old. She draws horses. She wants to be a veterinarian. She's everything good in my life. His voice broke. Please, I'll give you anything, my badge, my testimony, my silence, whatever you want, just help me get her back. Vincent stood, walked to the window overlooking the street. Chicago winter, snow falling, people rushing home to warm houses and safe families. Somewhere in this city, a little girl who drew horses was terrified, alone, wondering why her father wasn't saving her. Vincent had a daughter once, Francesca. She died at 12, cancer, same disease that took James's wife. Vincent understood the desperation, the helplessness, the bargaining with fate. He'd offered everything to save Francesca. Money, power, his own life. None of it mattered, some things you can't buy or fight your way out of. But this was different. This was men with guns taking a child. This was something Vincent could fix. "Keep your badge," Vincent said, turning back. "You're going to need it when this is over." James's eyes widened. "You'll help." "I'll do more than help, I'll end this." Vincent picked up his phone, called his consigliere, Paulo. "Get everyone, war room, 10 minutes, we're going after the Castellanos." He hung up, looked at James. 2 hours ago means they're still in the city. Anthony's smart but arrogant. He'll keep Maya somewhere he controls, somewhere he can watch the fallout, somewhere that sends a message. "How do you know?" "Because I know Anthony. We grew up in the same neighborhood. Went to the same schools. I chose one path, he chose another, and his path has always been about proving he's smarter than everyone else." Vincent walked to the door. "Come on, you're part of this now." "I can't, I'm a cop. If I participate in whatever you're planning." "You stopped being a cop the moment you walked in here and dropped your badge. Right now you're a father, and fathers do whatever it takes." Vincent's voice was steel. "Besides, you know the law, you know how to avoid leaving evidence. You'll be useful." James stood, picked up his badge, pocketed it, followed Vincent into the back room where his men were already gathering. This was the war room, where Vincent planned operations, settled disputes, made the decisions that kept his organization running smoothly. Maps of Chicago covered the walls, photos, documents, the organized chaos of a criminal empire. Paulo was already there, mid-50s. Clever eyes, Vincent's right hand for 20 years. "Boss, what's happening? Why is Detective Kellerman here?" "Anthony Castellano kidnapped his daughter 2 hours ago. We're getting her back." The room erupted in questions, objections, confusion. Vincent raised his hand. Silence fell immediately. "I know what you're thinking. James has been a problem for us. Arrested our people, cost us money, but Anthony broke the rule, took a child. That's unacceptable." He looked around the room. "We have codes. Lines we don't cross. Anthony crossed the biggest one. This stops now." "Boss," Paulo said carefully, "this could start a war." "War's already started. Anthony declared it when he took Maya Kellerman. We're just choosing which side we're on." Vincent turned to James. "Tell them everything, descriptions, timeline, any detail that might help." James did, professional, precise, falling back on his police training. When he finished, Vincent's men were nodding, respecting him despite themselves. This was a father fighting for his daughter. They understood that. Vincent studied a map of Chicago. Anthony owned 6 properties that could hold someone. Warehouse in Cicero, shipping yard in Bridgeport, old factory in Pilsen, 2 apartment buildings, and his primary residence in Lincoln Park. "Too many to hit at once," Paulo said. "We split up, we're vulnerable." "We don't split up, we figure out which one." Vincent looked at James. "Anthony would want you to know where she is. Want you to feel helpless knowing, but unable to act. Where would he take her that sends the clearest message?" James thought. "The warehouse in Cicero, that's where I arrested his nephew, where I found the drugs. He'd like the irony." Vincent nodded. "Paulo, get 8 men. Best we have. James, you're with me. We leave in 5 minutes." They assembled fast. Vincent's crew, trained, disciplined, ready. James looked out of place among them. Clean-cut cop in a suit surrounded by men in dark clothes and harder eyes. But they accepted him because Vincent had. The convoy rolled through Chicago streets. 3 black SUVs. Vincent rode in the lead vehicle with James and Paulo. "When we get there," Vincent said, "you stay back, you don't shoot, you don't engage, you witness only. I can help, I'm trained. You help by staying alive and staying clean. When this is over, Maya needs her father, not a father in prison for participating in a mob hit." Vincent's voice softened slightly. "I'm doing this, you're not, that's how it has to be." James nodded reluctantly. The warehouse appeared in the distance. Large, industrial. Dark except for lights on the 2nd floor. 2 vehicles parked outside, guards visible through windows. 4 outside, probably more inside, Paulo noted. "How do you want to play this?" Vincent studied the building. Front door fast, loud, overwhelming force. Anthony's men aren't expecting us. They think James is helpless, think I don't know yet. We hit hard before they can react. They parked 2 blocks away, moved on foot, silent, professional. Vincent's men flanked the warehouse, positioned at every exit. On his signal, they moved. The front door exploded inward. Vincent's team poured through, suppressed weapons, trained precision. The guards outside never had a chance to shout warning. Inside was chaos. Castellano's men scrambling, reaching for weapons, too slow. Vincent's crew moved like a machine, clearing rooms, securing positions, neutralizing threats. Vincent moved through the warehouse with Paulo and 2 others. James followed, weaponless but determined. They found Maya on the 2nd floor, small room, locked door. She sat in a corner, hands bound, tape over her mouth, eyes wide with terror but alive, unhurt from what Vincent could see. Vincent shot the lock, kicked the door open. Maya screamed behind the tape, tried to scramble away, thought more bad men had come. "Maya," Vincent said quietly, "I'm here with your father, you're safe now." James pushed past, fell to his knees beside his daughter, pulled the tape gently from her mouth, cut the zip ties with a knife Paulo handed him. Maya threw herself into her father's arms, sobbing, shaking, holding on like she'd never let go. Dad, they said you weren't coming, they said nobody was coming." "I'm here, baby, I'm here, you're safe." James held her, looked up at Vincent. Thank you, Vincent nodded. "Get her out, Paulo will take you to the cars, we'll finish here." Finish? James understood. "Vincent, you can't." "I can and I will. Anthony broke the rules, there are consequences." Vincent's voice was cold, final. "Take your daughter home, this is my business now." Paulo led them away, James carrying Maya, the little girl's face buried in her father's shoulder, safe, loved, rescued. Vincent watched them go, then turned to his remaining men. "Find Anthony." They found him in his office, trying to escape through a back entrance. Vincent's men blocked his path, brought him back to the main floor, forced him to his knees. Anthony Castellano was 45, expensive suit, slick back hair. The kind of man who thought money and violence made him untouchable. "Vincent, we can talk about this, work something out." Anthony's voice was steady, but his eyes showed fear. "You took a child, a cop's child, to send a message to me. Business, you understand business. I understand you broke the most important rule we have." Vincent stood over him. "Every family in this city follows that rule. Children are off limits, you crossed that line." "She's fine, unhurt, just a little scare. Her father got the message. The message that you're weak, that you target children because you can't compete with actual men." Vincent's voice was ice. "That message?" Anthony's face flushed. "You think you're better than me? You're a criminal, same as me. Don't pretend you have some moral high ground." "I never claimed moral high ground, just basic human decency." "Something you lack." Vincent pulled his gun. Anthony's bravado cracked. "Wait, Vincent, please, we grew up together, we're from the same neighborhood, you can't." "That's exactly why I can, because I know you. Know you've always been cruel, always taken shortcuts, always hurt the weak to feel strong." Vincent's finger was steady on the trigger. "I let it slide because you stayed in your territory, didn't cross lines, but you crossed the biggest one tonight. It was business, just business." "Business doesn't involve 10-year-old girls." Vincent's mind flashed to Francesca, to her hospital room, to the helplessness he'd felt watching her fade, to James's face when he dropped his badge and begged, to Maya's terrified eyes before she'd recognized her father. "You don't get to make children collateral damage." He pulled the trigger. Anthony fell. The warehouse went silent. Vincent holstered his gun, looked at his men. "Burn it, all of it. Every property Anthony owned, every operation. I want the Castellano organization erased by morning." They moved immediately, efficient, professional. Within hours, the Castellano empire was smoking ruins. Vincent returned to his restaurant, found James waiting. Maya was asleep on a booth bench, wrapped in someone's jacket. Detective Frank sat across from her, hands cuffed behind his back. "Found him trying to leave town," Paulo said. "Figured you'd want to talk to him." Vincent studied Frank's, dirty cop who'd blocked the investigation, who'd left Maya to die or worse. "James," Vincent said, "he's yours, legally, build your case, use whatever resources you need. I'll provide evidence of his corruption, testimony from witnesses, everything required to put him away correctly." James looked surprised. You're not going to kill him. No, that's your justice system's job. I'm just helping you do your job properly. Vincent turned to Franks. You betrayed everything a badge means, protected criminals over children. You're going to prison, real prison, where they know what you are, where you'll spend every day paying for what you enabled. Franks went pale, understanding the full weight of what was coming. I want my lawyer. You'll get one. After Detective Kellerman processes you properly. After the media hears about the hero cop who saved his daughter despite his own department's corruption. Vincent smiled coldly. You're going to be very famous, in all the wrong ways. 2 weeks later, Vincent sat in Romano's reading the newspaper. Front page, James Kellerman holding his daughter. The story of how a dedicated detective had uncovered corruption in his own department while rescuing his kidnapped child. How he'd worked with federal authorities to bring down the Castellano organization. How he'd exposed Detective Franks and 3 other dirty cops. Hero cop. The story carefully omitted Vincent's involvement. That suited him fine. James entered the restaurant, Maya beside him. She carried a rolled-up paper. They approached Vincent's table. Mr. Romano, James said formally, my daughter wanted to thank you. Maya stepped forward, shy but determined. She unrolled the paper, a drawing, horses running through a field. One large horse in front, protective, strong. That's you, Maya said quietly. The big horse. Dad says you saved me, so I drew you. Vincent felt something crack in his chest. He took the drawing carefully. It's beautiful, thank you, Maya. Do you really have horses? I do. A ranch outside the city. Would you like to see them sometime? Her eyes lit up. Really? Can I, Dad? James smiled, nodded. If Mr. Romano's offering. Next weekend, Vincent said. Both of you will make a day of it. After they left, Vincent hung the drawing in his office, beside photos of Francesca, of his family, of the people who mattered. Paulo came in later, saw the drawing, smiled. Boss, you're getting soft. Maybe, or maybe I'm just remembering what matters. Vincent studied the drawing. Anthony thought taking a child would make him strong, powerful. Instead, it ended him, because some lines you don't cross, ever. You think James will come after us again, try to arrest our people. Probably, he's a good cop. That doesn't change, but now he knows we have rules, standards, that we're not like the Castellanos. Vincent sat back. Sometimes mutual respect is more valuable than friendship or alliance. Months passed. James didn't arrest any of Vincent's people, didn't raid his businesses, but he also didn't look the other way. When Vincent's men broke the law, James investigated properly, legally, following procedure. Vincent respected that, appreciated it even. At least you knew where you stood with James Kellerman. The cop who dropped his badge had picked it up again. Still honest, still incorruptible, still everything a good cop should be. But now with the wisdom to understand that the world was complicated, that sometimes bad men did good things, that justice wasn't always simple or clear. Maya visited the ranch regularly, always with James, never alone. Vincent taught her about horses, their care, their temperament, how to read their moods. She was a natural, fearless once she understood they wouldn't hurt her. One Saturday, while Maya rode with Paulo's daughter, James and Vincent sat on the ranch fence. I never thanked you properly, James said. You didn't just save Maya, you saved me. I was ready to throw everything away, my badge, my honor, everything. You would have done the same in my position. Would I? I don't know, I'd like to think so. But until you're actually there, facing that choice, you don't really know. James was quiet for a moment. Why did you help, really? We're on opposite sides. I've arrested your people, cost you money. You could have let Maya die. Let me destroy myself trying to save her. Vincent watched the girls riding in the distance. I had a daughter, Francesca. She died when she was 12, cancer, same disease that took your wife. He'd never spoken about this, not to anyone outside his immediate family. Every day I'd have traded my life for hers, my empire, everything. Would have given anything to save her, but I couldn't. No amount of money or power could fix it. He turned to James. You came into my restaurant, dropped your badge, asked me to save your daughter. And I could. For the first time in years, I could actually save a child, save a father from the helplessness I'd felt. Vincent's voice was quiet. So I did, not for you, for me, because Maya deserved to live, because you deserved not to feel what I felt when Francesca died. James's eyes were wet. I'm sorry about your daughter. No parent should go through that. No, they shouldn't, but they do, every day. Parents lose children to disease, violence, accidents. We do our best to protect them. Doesn't always work, Vincent stood. But when it does work, when you get that chance to save a child, you take it no matter what. They watched Maya and Paulo's daughter laughing, racing their horses, happy, safe, innocent. She wants to be a veterinarian now, James said. Large animals, specifically horses, you inspired that. Better than what I usually inspire in people. Fear. Usually, but maybe that's changing. Getting old softens you, makes you think about legacy. Years passed. Maya did become a veterinarian, specialized in equine medicine, opened a practice outside Chicago, did work for Vincent's ranch, professional relationship that honored their complicated history. James eventually retired, 25 years on the force, ended as a captain, respected, honored, the cop who'd exposed corruption and saved his daughter. He never mentioned Vincent's involvement. That story stayed between them. Vincent attended James's retirement party, sat in the back. Left before speeches started, but James saw him, nodded. A simple acknowledgement between two men who understood each other better than most. Maya married. Had kids, brought them to Vincent's ranch, taught them about horses, about courage, about how sometimes the scariest people can also be the kindest. Vincent was 80 when Maya's daughter asked him about the drawing in his office, the horses running, the protective stallion. "My mama drew that," the little girl said, "when she was my age. She did. She said you saved her life, that a bad man took her but you brought her back." Vincent knelt down to the child's eye level, harder now. His joints protested. But he managed. "Your mother was very brave, and your grandfather was braver. He did something very hard to save her." "What did he do?" He asked for help. That's sometimes the hardest thing, admitting you can't do something alone. The little girl thought about this. "Are you a good man or a bad man?" Vincent smiled. "I'm complicated, did bad things, did good things, probably more bad than good, but I tried to protect children, tried to help when I could. That has to count for something." "It counts for a lot," Maya said, appearing beside her daughter. She'd overheard. "It counts for everything." After they left, Vincent sat alone in his office, surrounded by photos, memories. Evidence of a life lived in shadows but trying to reach toward light. The badge sat on his desk. James had given it to him years ago, after he'd retired. "You earned this more than I did," James had said. "Keep it. Reminder that good and bad aren't always clear, that sometimes monsters protect children and cops ask criminals for help, that the world is complicated and that's okay." Vincent picked up the badge. Shield 2847, 25 years of service, tarnished now, worn. Like him, but still solid, still meaningful. He thought about the night James had dropped this badge on his table, desperate, broken, begging, how that moment had changed everything, not just for James and Maya, but for Vincent. It had reminded him that power was only meaningful if you used it correctly. That fear was only useful if tempered with mercy. That being the scariest man in the city meant having the privilege to choose when to be scary and when to be human. The badge stayed on his desk, next to Francesca's photo, next to Maya's drawing, reminders of what mattered, who mattered, why anything he'd built was worth protecting. Vincent Romano had spent 60 years being feared, building empire through intelligence and controlled violence, making hard choices that kept his family safe and his enemies cautious. But that night, when a desperate father had dropped his badge and begged for help, when Vincent could have said no, could have let the situation play out, could have chosen not to start a war over a cop's daughter, he'd chosen differently, and that choice, that moment of unexpected mercy from the city's most dangerous man, that had defined him more than any crime, any business deal, any calculated move in decades of shadow wars. Because James Kellerman dropping his badge hadn't been a surrender, it had been a test of Vincent's humanity, of his code, of whether the rules he claimed to follow actually meant anything. Vincent had passed that test. Not perfectly, not without violence, but in the way that mattered most. He'd saved a child, protected a father, honored the code that said children were sacred, and in doing so, he'd saved himself. From becoming the monster everyone assumed he was, from losing the last piece of humanity that separated him from men like Anthony Castellano, from forgetting that power without principle was just tyranny. The sun set over Vincent's ranch. Horses moved in distant fields. peaceful, safe, protected like Maya, like her children, like all the children Vincent had helped over the years. After that night, after remembering what mattered, his phone rang, unknown number. He answered. "Mr. Romano, you don't know me. My name is Thomas Wells. I'm a teacher, and I need help. My son was taken 3 hours ago. The police won't help because the people who took him are connected. And someone told me that you're the man you go to when the system fails." Vincent closed his eyes, felt the weight of expectation, the burden of being the person people turn to in desperation. "Tell me everything," he said, because that's what he did now. What he'd been doing for 20 years since that night. What he'd keep doing until age or bullets stopped him. He protected children, helped desperate fathers, honored the code that said innocents were sacred, not because it made him good, but because it made him human. And in a life measured by violence and shadows, being human was the only victory that mattered. Detective James Kellerman's badge sat on his desk. Reminder, promise, testament. The badge a good cop had dropped in front of a bad man, and what that bad man had said with his actions instead of words. Actions that left everyone silent, because sometimes the most powerful statement isn't what you say. It's what you choose to do when nobody expects mercy. When violence would be easier, when the world assumes you'll choose darkness. Vincent Romano had chosen light, imperfect light, complicated light. Light filtered through 60 years of shadow and sin, but light nonetheless, and that choice, made in a moment when a father begged and a child needed saving, that choice echoed through years, through lives, through generations, because mercy, real mercy, doesn't come from saints, it comes from sinners who choose better, even once, even when it's hard, even when it starts a war. That badge on Vincent's desk represented something more valuable than law or order. It represented the moment when a cop learned that justice was complicated, and a criminal remembered that children were sacred. Two men on opposite sides, finding common ground in a father's desperation and a child's terror, building respect from the ashes of assumptions, learning that good and bad weren't destinations. They were choices, made daily, made in moments of crisis, made when it mattered most. The detective had dropped his badge. The Mafia boss had picked it up. And in that exchange, in that moment, both men found something they didn't know they needed. The cop found help when his system failed. The criminal found purpose beyond profit. And a little girl who drew horses got to grow up, have children, teach them about courage and kindness and the complicated nature of good people doing bad things and bad people doing good things. That was the legacy, not the empire, not the fear. Not the money or the power, but the moments when Vincent Romano chose to be more than what everyone expected, more than the monster in expensive suits, more than the calculated violence and shadow wars. He chose to be human, flawed human, criminal human, but human who protected children, who honored codes, who understood that power meant nothing if not used correctly. The phone call with Thomas Wells lasted an hour. By the end, Vincent had a plan. Resources deployed, his people moving. Another child would come home. Another father would learn that sometimes help comes from unexpected places. Another reminder that the world was complicated and beautiful and terrible and hopeful, all at once, all the time. You just had to choose which side to serve in each moment. Vincent Romano chose mercy, again, because that's what the badge on his desk demanded, what Francesca's memory required. What Maya's drawing inspired. What James Kellerman's desperate faith had proven possible, and in a life measured by darkness. Those moments of light were the only things worth keeping, the only legacy that mattered, the only proof that even monsters could choose to be men. That night, when a police officer had dropped his badge in front of a Mafia boss, and what he said left everyone silent, not because of words, but because of what came after, the choice Vincent made, the war he started, the child he saved, the code he honored. And the reminder that sometimes, in a complicated world full of shadows, the scariest people can also be the kindest. You just have to give them the chance to choose. James Kellerman had given Vincent that chance, and Vincent had chosen mercy. That was the story. That was the legacy. That was what mattered. Everything else was just details.